So I've been on Google for about an hour trying to find a good image for this video, and honestly, I can't find one. So obviously, this subject needs to be talked about, so stick around and let me teach you something. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven Turner with Crappie Jigs. So in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly what all these other YouTubers aren't doing. They may show you what they look like, but what do you do after you find them? That's the biggest question. Just like me, I'm trying to find an image on Google, and I can't find one to explain it thoroughly like I want to, because it just don't exist, I guess. So the two essential things you need when you're looking for brush piles is a marker buoy, which is basically a piece of plastic that floats. It's got a bunch of string on it. You can find them at Walmart, Amazon, whatever, and it's got a sinker on it. Or you can make your own. You can take a Coke bottle, wrap some fishing line around it, get about 20 feet out, and put a bunch of sinkers on it, and there you go. You got your homemade marker buoy. Now, the way that marker buoy is so important to crappie fishing is because there's this little thing that Mother Nature likes to do is wind, you know, blows you all around the lake, especially if you're in a pontoon boat. Man, you ain't staying still for nothing. Now, when we're talking about traditional sonar, you know, your $100 to $500 units, most of you ain't got spot lock, so marker buoys come real handy. Even with spot lock, marker buoys are great, though. Now, essentially, what the marker buoy is going to allow you to do is stay on the brush pile. Now, whether that brush pile has fish or not, that's for you to find out. I can't make that brush pile have fish, unfortunately. But, okay, so now we're going to break down the nitty-gritty. We're going to start from the beginning, and we're hopefully going to end where you're catching fish off these brush. That's my goal of 2025, so if you haven't subscribed, hit the button down below, turn on your bell notifications. Every Friday, I'm coming out with a new video to teach you how to catch fish. And eventually, we're going to be out on the water actually doing hands-on demonstrations and all that good stuff. So stay tuned. So, you're idling along. Now, I just want to emphasize right here, the whole idling along part. This is the key to happiness while you're fishing. It's the most boring part. It really is, guys. Idling through creek channels, river channels, channel swings, you name it, the fine brush. It's not fun. But if you don't put in the time, you'll never catch fish. There's been time and time again, I've seen people go out and idle for 20 minutes, not find a brush pile, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to go get a cheeseburger at Big Man's and pack the daggone boat up and go home. There ain't no crappie in this lake. But the truth be told, the more time you're out on the water, the more gas you burn, the more brush piles you have logged in your GPS or from your visual that you know where everything is, the more fish are going to be in tacos. 100%. So once you find a brush pile, you're either going to find it with your transducer on the back of your boat, which is fine, you know. Now you got to think that when you go over a brush pile, say this is the brush pile right here. You take your boat, you're idling. It's not going to ping on that sonar until your boat, it's probably a good, you know, that far away from the brush pile. Now that is very key to when you need to throw out your marker buoy. So what I like to do, if I go over a brush pile, if I take my boat, I'm riding over a brush pile, it comes up on my screen that's connected to the back of the boat. I just throw the marker buoy behind me. Now, I normally have a 2D sonar down image side scan on the back of the boat. Now, up front, these days I have live scope, but, you know, 6-7 years ago, I had a Humminbird Piranha Max. Cost $100 at Walmart. Best cheap unit anybody can afford. Humminbird has great products. So, I would throw the marker buoy behind me, and then I would get to the front of the boat, drop the trolling motor, and I would double check where that marker buoy is to make sure it's on top of the brush. So if you just have 2D on your trolling motor and you're out there trolling around looking for brush, that's fine too. But the thing about that makes it a little bit easier is you just get on top of the brush and let the brush become the entire screen. Then just drop your buoy, back off, and try to catch some fish on it. So once you get on this brush, you know where it's at. You've thrown your marker buoy to where you think that brush is at. The first key steps is to look at your screen and see how deep that brush is. Now, a lot of people, they're going to talk about, just cast into the brush, but that doesn't make any sense to somebody that doesn't catch fish on the regular. Like, oh, I'm just going to cast to the brush and hopefully something bites it. Oh, I'm not getting any bites. No, you've got to break this brush down. So you've got the bottom of the lake, and then you've got the top of your brush. So if you're fishing 15 feet of water, you've got a brush that starts at 15 feet. This brush comes up to 10 feet of water, so you got a 5 feet tall brush. What depth should you be aiming to get to by the time you get to that brush? I'll wait. Just think about it for just a second. And if you said 10 feet, no, you're going to get hung up in the dang brush. Come on, man. The thing about brush pile and crappie fishing is, crappie feed up. You may find that one Dr. Dingus that feeds down, but most of the time they will feed up. So if you have a 5-foot brush pile in 15 feet of water and you're throwing it 10 feet, you're probably going to be at the same level they are, and they're not really going to be biting that well. Now, they may. Don't get me wrong, they may. Your best chance to catch a fish on a brush pile is to throw 2 to 3 inches above the brush pile. And what I mean by that, guys, is when you cast out, that's how far your jig goes down. So, like I covered in last week's video, how to figure out the rate of fall in your jig. Find some clear water. If you don't have any clear water, you can find like a pool or a bucket or something. Throw your jig out there and count down until it hits the bottom. Figure out what depth of water that is, and then you just got to repeat that process while you're fishing a brush pile. Because the majority of the time, I like to fish a brush pile between 5 to 10 feet away from the boat. And if I can't get a bite, I'll get right on top of that sucker. I'll have the trolling motor where the marker buoy is, and I'll drop right beside the trolling motor, and I'll jig the crap out of it. Now, that is 3 ways you can fish it. But figuring out the rate of fall, whether you're using a 164, 132, a 16th, I had a bunch of people commenting on my video using 8ths and 1/4. I mean, if you're in 10 feet of water, you're going to be fishing the bottom, man. Come on. But, sorry. But, once you figure out the rate of fall, that brush, 10 feet top, you want to be fishing 8 feet of water. And you throw it out, you count down 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and then you either start winding or you just hold your rod and you let it go across that brush. And either A, they're going to come out the brush and eat it, or B, they're already out the brush and you're at the right depth and you're going to catch fish. Now, another really easy way to do this is with a slip cork. I don't use a lot of slip corks. Slip corks are mainly better with minnows, but you can put jigs on slip corks. But if you're new to fishing, dude, rig up a slip cork, get you a couple dozen of minnows, find a brush, figure out what depth that brush is, set that slip cork to 8 to 7 feet, and every cast you're going to be perfect on top of that brush because of the marker buoy. The marker buoy is there to guide you through this entire process of catching fish. So that's just the gist of it, guys. Like finding the brush, figuring out what depth you need to fish, mark that brush, and then take cast until you figure it out. You're going to get hung. It's all right. You can buy more jigs. I mean, I sell them. You can buy all you want. You're going to get hung. And if you don't have 2D, Walmart, $100 Piranha Max. One of the best units I've ever had on my boat. And if live scope never was invented, I would probably still be rocking it. But I hope you learned something from today's video. Like I said, we're coming out with these small little series of videos over the course of 2025. We're trying to get to 100,000 subs. So if you want to be a part of that journey, I invite you to drop down below. We go live every night for the most part. I am going to be taking a break here soon, but we do go live a lot in this shop making baits, and we're going to be live fishing. So I invite you to join us. We have an awesome fishing community. Everybody's awesome. If you need to know what rod and reel, there you go. ACCs all day. You need to know what lures? Crappie Man Jigs. Until next week, get slabby.